Welcome to Getting Real with Josh Boyer, the show that embraces radical vulnerability and authenticity. Josh creates a judgment-free zone for his guests to share openly and candidly. Listen in as they discuss life, philosophy, passion, drive, empowerment, and purpose. Join us as we seek to leave our world better than we found it and send ripples of positive, lasting change out into the world.
All right, here we are at the Mystic Manor in Venice, California with NOA AON. I'm so excited about this episode because the way it all happened. It was so interesting to me that I had been setting the intention for a while that I wanted to start recording in LA only, or do mostly in LA. Because my wife was like, you're traveling all the time, you're always gone. And I was trying to find ways to start monetizing my podcast a little bit, but then at the same time, I was changing the direction of it. As you know, I think you saw before, my podcast used to be called My Backstory, and then I changed it to Getting Real because I felt like I started doing a lot of men's work, and I felt like there was something missing. There was something missing that I wanted to send out into the world. And I wanted to start talking to people about breaking the walls down and dropping the stories. And so when you hit me up and said, hey, let's do a podcast, and then you were like, hey, I'm going to be in LA, and I was like, dude, this is so perfect, And even the timing, I was like, oh, it's going to be kind of late, and I was like, so what? Let's make it happen. So for those of you that are listening, we did a what do you call the workshop?
So I call it System Reset. And hello, everybody.
Yeah, sorry.
Beautiful being here.
So we did a workshop, and it was. I had never done that ever in my life before. I've done some breath work and stuff, but that was, my whole body was tingling. Everything, everywhere was tingling. There was a release of emotion, and you could feel the energy in the room. It was absolutely amazing. It was incredible. So, however you put that all together, or how that all happened, keep doing it because it's fantastic. I was pleasantly surprised, shocked, fascinated, you name it, all of it. So I want you to share with our listeners, what's your story? How'd you get into doing what you're doing? Where you're from? Just tell a little bit about yourself.
You got it.
Yeah.
So what you just did is called System Reset. And really, it's a compilation of years of pain, years of discovering, years of questioning that led me to, there must be more. There must be more than what we are taught to be. Yeah. There must be more than who are we believed to be. Yeah. And I just was a boy from Czech Republic that never stopped questioning. Yeah. I was born and raised there. I came to America the first time when I was about 15 as a foreign exchange student into a town called Brooksville, Florida, which is in the middle of nowhere. And I'm thinking America, right? Yeah. All the cool stories and movies and that. And I go into a farm with kettles. And
oh, wow.
And I'm like, really?
Were you in the city in Czech Republic? Were you in Prague or what? Where'd you grow up?
No, I grew up in quite a little town in the mountains, north. It's in ex-Sudetenland, where the Germans took over during the war. And beautiful place. Yep.
That's awesome. And then so when you came in over here and you were the exchange student, did you stay here or did you go back to Czech Republic, or when did you decide hey, America's where I want to be?
So my dad actually came with this idea because a lot of agencies nowadays do it. Yeah. And I never really liked school. I was never a school type, and I actually failed the school. And a quick story, I paid my best friend to finish online high school for me. Yeah. And basically, I didn't believe the way school works. I believe that we should develop our talents, that we need obviously read and write. But past that, there is so much more out there that we're not taught.
Where do you think that came from? Because I know coming from the American perspective, from what I know of the Czech Republic and that area of the world, seems to be very strict and very rigid and structured, and there's the communist and stuff like that. And it's so it's interesting to me that for you had a different mindset. Your mindset was different. Was that something that was developed by your parents? Was that something that you just innately had? You were always questioning things?
So I think part of it, absolutely, where you're raised, how you're raised. My parents have been very disciplined and business people themselves. The minute the wall came down, they started their first company. And so, back then there was nothing. It was a gray city, no colors. Everything was owned by the country.
Yep.
So as soon as that wall hit down, which is about the time I was born, it opened the country up.
Yeah.
And so that's the one step. The second step that really opened me up is my mom. From very young age, we grew up with shaman. We learned about energies. We started doing yoga way before yoga was cool.
Wow.
We learned how to meditate, and so it was always there, and it was a big help.
Was your mom Czech?
Yeah,
Dude, that's crazy to me. That's like, I don't know why that's crazy to me. I guess like in my mind, like kind of like when you came to America, you had a vision of like what it was going to look like, and then here you are in like the middle of this farm. So for me, like hearing of someone like doing shaman work and like yoga, like a Czech, like woman, like from a different generation, even it's like, whoa, that's crazy to me. So were her parents the same way, or what was that like?
No, I mean,
escape?
same issues. She's been in a very abusive, relationship from her parents. I actually got exposed quite a bit to it myself. I remember I was like 12 years old, and my grandfather was an alcoholic, and he would be throwing glasses and fighting with the grandmom. And I remember I literally, I was like 12 years old with my friend staying over in their place, in their house. And I was like, I have enough. We literally, no money. We jumped on a bus and we went back home because it was that. And my mother's sister died in a car accident. She was only 16 years old.
Wow.
And I think it was such a drama and so much pain that it caused that, it made her look into deeper meaning of life. So she went through healing and workshops and training, and even the Bible and everything that could bring her peace and love.
Right.
And sorrow is very hard.
Definitely.
And she had times when she wanted to no longer be here because of her sister and because of that relationship. So I don't think she wanted us to be the same, and that was the driving force.
That's amazing, man. What do you think, like growing up with the mother that you had, like, what do you think the meaning of life is? What conclusion have you came to about the meaning of life? And I have my ideas about it, but like, what is it for you?
So conclusion has changed quite a bit, right? When you grow up, you are raised in a way what you're supposed to, what you're taught, whatever the dogmas of your country, of your family is. And it really, for me, it was unpeeling those layers and discovering myself for who I am and not for who I am not. So it was literally this journey of time and of pain that led me to understand that we are all love. We are all born out of love, and whatever we like it or not, everything and every form is ultimately love. Right. And I've been able to expose myself to that, and through training, years of work and traveling, I now am fully in love with myself and with people around you.
Right. The thing that I struggle with, and I think a lot of people do, like I just I shared with you offline that I've just got into like doing men's work, and like really started peeling the onion back and really addressing a lot of the trauma, a lot of the things that I wasn't really even aware that were there. And it was like all this stuff started coming up for me, a lot of emotions and like things that I had just never expressed and really never got out. And I can find myself feeling so much more connected to the people around me. But there's this little, like, I don't know, devil or voice in the back of my head that's like, don't get too like complacent, because I feel like there's still evil in the world. And so I have a hard time reconciling some of that, especially with a military background. It's like, I want to be all love, and I do believe that people are all love, but like I have a hard time being able to explain like all the atrocities that are happening in the world and how can I change that. And I think like for me, it still to this day, I think creates some anxiety for me, because I want to be the catalyst of change. I want to be the guy that's out there like being the beacon of hope and light and of what's possible. And then you see these like terrible things happening. It's like, it's so like, you can't explain it. Sometimes there's no explanation for it. So what do you say to that? Like, how do you stay in such a solid state of like being pure love when you see things around you that are not like what you envision for the world?
Absolutely. So I've done a lot of work, specifically with Paul Selig. Have you? I don't know if you.
I've seen him on the Aubrey Marcus podcast. Yeah,
Beautiful. So what he says is, when you think you don't know, when you know you don't think. So there's few different things that led me to feeling love, and I agree with you. It's almost a cliche to say it, and I always like to use different terms for it, because love, yeah, we're all love, we're hippies and da da da. No, fucking A, no, it's not just rainbows and hippies. We're actually in the complete opposite as a civilization right now.
right.
But all of that is caused by mental toxicity, right? All of that is caused by what are we thinking about ourselves? What are we thinking about another person? And so what I really found, that love is an actual frequency. It's a resonance that you resonate or you don't. So if we're in a constant state of beta thinking mindset, and as far as what we have to do, worrying about how do we look, how we have to work, that's that society, that's the ideology that we have come to. And one of the things that you probably felt tonight was the sense of love, was this emotional openness. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, is because people need to see, hear, or feel, depending on who they are, where they are in their evolution. So that way they believe in that, right? You can't really have anything unless your belief is strong enough and you can even imagine it. So that's the one thing. The other thing, when we come from our mind, we're very limited. We're only limited to what we were taught, or what do we project into the future. So I literally been peeling these layers of emotions and pains and struggles until all there was left was love. So that being said, that I am the word has been a really good practice. What you do is that, let's say that something causes me an emotional pain in my life. Let's say my wife tells me I am something otherwise than love.
Right.
And instead of taking that reaction and matching that frequency, what I would do is I would go back into a coding. I like it say the coding because we are like a computers ultimately.
Yeah.
Your mind is a software, your body is a hardware,
It's all programmed,
and whatever you program is what you are.
Yeah.
So what I would do is that emotion comes in, and I would literally write, I am worked through this pain with my wife, or I would be more descriptive at that point.
Yeah.
But I went on this journey of using this method, also using Katie Byron's method, the work,
Yeah.
also using Untethered Soul, just different type of work that is working with your mind and that is helping you recode these feelings. So that way, all there is left is love and joy, and love comes in many different forms.
Yeah.
But we're not meant to be in pain. We're not meant to be at anger. It's there. It's always gonna be there. But we can just observe it and not react to it. And that's been.
It feels like, and I totally agree with you, man. Like that's kind of feels like that's the trajectory that I'm on. Is like to get rid of the old stories, get rid of the old programming, start rewiring some of the old things that like aren't serving me anymore. I guess the issue that I run into, and I think it's from the mental standpoint, is like when you see the things that are happening around you that are bad, it's like it's hard. I don't want to be naive, so like I feel like sometimes like I go down this rabbit hole of like love and like acceptance, and like the men's workshops that I've been going to, it's like you leave there like floating, like you're like on cloud 9, and then you come back to reality and you integrate into the world and you see like the things that are happening. It's like, man, like how do I? So I'm trying to find a way to meet that, but meet it from a place of love and understanding. But some things are just inexplicable, where it's like I can't explain that away. I don't know how to like. I don't know what's going on in the world. This is crazy, And for me, it creates almost like an angst, like, oh wow, like how do I stop this? How do we stop like these senseless wars and like things that are happening all over the world? And so at a certain point, I think sometimes I find myself withdrawing, being like, I just don't even want to deal with it. I just shut it out. And I don't know if that's healthy either. I don't know if that's like the right way, or if it's maybe it's just what works for me. I don't know.
That would be called apathy, and it's actually not the greatest. So there's levels of emotional freedom.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it is not bad to feel anger. I mean, we have all these labels that anger is bad, that crying is bad, that fear is bad. No, they're great because they allow us to see love and to grow. And so for me, every day, every interaction that causes any sorts of harm is, for me, there's something to let go of. So in my practice, I literally use this all the time. I go somewhere, and let's say that you're in a grocery store and that person is already angry, right? You can sense it, feel it. And instead of like, what the hell is wrong with that person? And like, that person is dark, right? That matching frequency on where they are, or what you damns you back, right?
Yeah.
I become the light. So everywhere I go, I now go back to my breath. Breath has always been the key factor to everything. Because the minute that we go into these bursts of pain or bursts of anger, it means that we lost control with our love, with our center. Yeah. So at that point, I would just observe my breath, relax the state, so you don't produce cortisol and all the stress hormones. Yeah. And what we're doing is we're basically from sympathetic nervous system moving to parasympathetic nervous system, more of that chill and more relaxed. And that's one of the reasons why Wim Hof method, for example, is so good, because it's literally giving power back to the people, control back to your hands. So that way things still come. You will still get aroused or it's okay. But the most important step is first be aware of that. Become an observer of that, and then surrender that, then make a change. Right. Because otherwise you're just basically using that story, living the story of whatever that is.
How would you tell or guide somebody like I'll use myself as an example, coming from the military. I wasn't a combat veteran, so I'm not going to claim to have seen some crazy war atrocities, but I know that there's plenty of friends of mine that have. And what would you say to those guys that are like, because that's my kind of like my main, it is my main mission right now, is to help those veterans that are coming back and help them get the healing that they need. So, and a lot of these people are coming back like super jaded because of some of the things they've seen and witnessed and done and experienced. And I want to be able to meet them from a place of love and kind of guide them in a way that's like healthy and holistic. So what are some things that you would like recommend for somebody? It doesn't have to be just veterans, it's people that are just broken, like life has broken them. Like, what's the best way to like get back to like a equilibrium, that's healthy?
Absolutely. So believe it or not, I'm actually working on a military program right now that's going to be a course that will help people move out of whatever's PTSD or just simply leave the army. Yeah. I actually just add a team member to my team that's literally ex-military guy. And he was just with me in Texas this past tour. Nice. And I'm with you. It is so important. And that same goes for athletes, right? Anybody that has an identity crisis or any sorts of trauma, it's stored in our nervous system. So I think the first thing is realize that it's okay not to be okay. Yeah. Right? What I find with men specifically, and even for me, is how do we balance the masculine and feminine, right? Because everybody is masculine and feminine within us, and it doesn't mean that we have to go out and be these like whatever expressive and sensual men, but it does mean that we have to recognize that and we have to balance that aspect of us. And I find there's not a workshop I don't have somebody that is coming from army, military, SWAT. I've had it all, and I'm always so grateful because the release that they have is astonishing. But I really find it so important. Number one, rebalance your chemistry. So my whole model is me, we, be. Me meaning yourself. That's your physical, your mental, and your emotional. When I was about 18 years old, I had a massive depression, and I felt like taking my life. I didn't feel any purpose for life, and it was a combination of Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, and chronic strep that led me into this place of darkness of why am I here? What am I doing? I don't want to race. I want to feel good. And what happened to me during that time was like a crossroads, right? And I think a lot of people go in a crossroads where they either make it or break it. And it's one of the reasons why we see so many suicides in today's world, is because of this massive amount of pain and anxiety that's held here. But all that is losing our control, losing our sense of self, giving power away to media, giving power away to people around us, and giving power away to what we were taught. So as soon as somebody gets out of military, it is important to do some deep self-work. This is why I find biohacking for the specifically physical recalibration very powerful. Because a lot of times, like for example, I've had one guy come to my workshop and I've given him GABA, the natural supplement. And all of a sudden he asked me, is this legal? A couple hours later. Because he felt so much release. And a lot of people are depleted, specifically in their brain. And so that's why first, rebalance your chemistry. Look into different diets, whatever it's the bulletproof diet, mix with the supplements, finding a some inorganic
Nootropics.
Neurotropics as well. But how do you call it? The natural path.
Yeah.
So that way it is somebody that is giving you more of that natural treatment.
Yep.
But when I was depressed, I could do meditation, I could do anything, but none of that would help. It's just you are depressed, period. And there is like no way out of that little hole. So when I started taking charge of my physical body, it was very, very powerful step. When I recalibrated that, then I started really coding. Then I had that willpower, because the brain was fueled, the willpower to be able to face my issues, face my past, go into different programs that will help you really face that. And then all of a sudden, an emotional aspect became more light, more joy, more happiness. And I was like, whoa, this is how we're meant to feel. This is like amazing. Yeah. So that was really my first part, is looking at the me. When you recalibrate the me, you then can go into the we, the support group, the collective, because who you surround yourself with is who you become. It's been said a million times, and it's real. That's why I've been creating WhatsApp groups and all these groups around the world of people that are there for each other, that there's no more bullshit of what do you do for a living and this. No, how do you feel? Who are you? And learn to open, so you can be that best version of yourself.
It's funny, man. I after I started doing some of those workshops with the other men, I came back to hometown, whatever, and I felt like some of the connections that I thought I had weren't really connections at all. It was very much like, oh, what do you do for a living? What's your title? This, that, whatever. It's like, what do you feel? How do you feel about this? And it was like, let's talk about the football game, or it's like very surface level conversations. But the deeper that I'm going into this work, the more I'm people are coming into my awareness that I need right now, you as a prime example. And this was like I said, it was divine timing, man. This is great. What were some of the steps that you took to get you where you are today? What are some of the modalities that you did? Some of the things that got you to being NOA AON?
Totally. So NOA AON came from a darkroom retreat experience in the middle of Thailand. It's really a combination of life, but it really was at a crossroads where I used to be a very busy businessman. First of all, I used to be a professional athlete. I was a cyclist.
Oh, wow. And
that's why I feel the identity crisis, because I hit it myself. When I was about 21, my health was so bad that I would be week on and week off, and I would be doing all these great training, feeling great in the training, and then the race comes, and I could sometimes drop off half a mile in. That's how bad my swings were in energy and in who I was. So it gotten so bad that I was about 21 and I just had to quit. And at that point, I had to figure out, what am I doing next? And I started my first company when I was 17. I was trading between eBay and Alibaba. Oh, wow. So I figured out how to buy product directly from the factory in China, ship it to the eBay US customer. Didn't have to have $1 to start, because the eBay would pay for Alibaba. Alibaba ships there, no warehouse, nothing. So that was my...
No inventory, no nothing.
No inventory, nothing. That's awesome. Until later when it was growing. And so that was actually part of the problem, I think, that I never recovered properly. I was always just training and working so hard. And I went into this time where I literally I spent a month in Thailand with my family, because I was so tired and sick, and it's like, what am I doing? What's next? And it was so hard. I thought I'm gonna do Tour de France. I thought I'm gonna be the world champion, and all these ideologies and prescriptions of what I thought I wanted. And when I didn't have it, it was like you lost yourself, right? So that first step for me there was, you are not what you think. You are not what you have to do. You are that love. You are right there, right? So the minute I stop being dependent and I start using surrender as a magical experience, it really starts shifting for me. When I was about 18 or 19 years old, I got initiated into Kriya Yoga. and I went into India, and I literally.
Self-realization?
You got it. Yes.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But the one that's here locally, right?
Yeah,
from
well, I
Yoga
saw the
Nanda.
Rudraksha. I'm butchering the name, but I saw the beads and I was like, oh, I thought that was SRF.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
But so this is the second like a lineage
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that. But I learned how to meditate. There's 7-step process, and I literally traveled with the guru. I went to the night trains and backpack. I was like 18 years old, and I went to Babaji's cave. Had
That's
to hike
awesome.
up in the Himalayas, and it was really just like at my back to my core. So that was one of my first or multiple deep experiences.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed was it's just it was so important that I did that right after cycling, because it really helped me put things into perspective.
Right.
What I've learned there is that, or really today, is you don't have to follow a guru. You don't have to follow these hard processes, because they no longer really work. In today's world of millenniums, everything is quick, instant, fast. And so later in that darkroom cave, when NOA AON came into the whole realization, I was basically about day 7 when I completely broke into tears. I cried and cried and cried, and I touched myself for the first time for who I am, not for who I am not. And after that 21, I just went full into business. All that energy, all that power that I had on the bike, I was like, I don't have to ride 7 hours on the day. This is easy. Meetings after meetings, travel after travel, and I start building the company. We can touch into it later, the details of it. But I spent another 5-6 years of just thinking that this is my path, and this is one of the reasons why I want to be here, and I love to Get Real, because I keep on teaching people and telling people all of these things that I have integrated. But I also want to share tonight really where I am, where I was, and how hard this piece has been, because with the minute I step into that cave and then I walked out, things have shifted like completely. I have changed my life 180. I walked out of there and I decided to sell pretty much all the businesses. I had business partners, investors. They all thought, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Like completely crazy. Yep. But I knew who I was. I knew where I am, and I never wanted to leave it again. So the realization came is that NOA, later on I got to know that it means movement, means my love. It has all these powerful meanings. And an AON means all or none. Right. So I was like, this is really amazing, powerful. And when you take them together as left and right side, it really describes where the world is today. The duality, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs. So it became more of a teaching than a brand or name, because when you look at my little line in the middle, it's the center, the harmony. And out of all people, I have been one of the biggest extremists out there. From crazy nightlife to drugs to, I was living it to the fullest, but I was always high and low. Until I realized, okay, I gotta find balance, I gotta find non-judgment and surrender in whatever I do. It doesn't matter, it's about who I am. And so I walked out of there and I literally went back. I lived in Atlanta at that time. I used to own a yoga, meditation, and like a HIIT center, which nearly brought me bankrupt because everything. Well, I had this whole idea that now I'm gonna franchise it, just like my other companies before. Now I'm gonna make this new big brand, and little did I know that wasn't my path. I kept on escaping my path into what I thought was my path, and it helped me and gave me all the tools and training and knowledge. But I literally went into a full-blown DJing. So afterwards, I learned how to produce music. I learned how to, mix music. And again, I was like, okay, I've always loved music. I'm going to go on a festival tour. So literally within a half a year, I was in major nightclubs, festivals. I was playing and sharing my love. But again, it still was not me. Because it was the service level. I've done a lot of crazy parties and a lot of crazy nights. And even though I was having fun, people were having great experience, I had the same problem as if I was on the bike with a purpose. I had the same problem as if I was on a business, because I wasn't at my core. Yeah. So then I finally got it, which was mixing all that I've learned, all of these tools, that all of these gifts into these retreats and workshops and presentations. And so what you saw today, what you felt, was really a long, deep ego burn to understand this is why I'm here.
That's amazing, dude. That's amazing. So this is what you do full time? Is doing the workshops and traveling all over the world, like teaching people this?
So I like to say it this way. I do 3 core things.
Yeah.
My passion is music.
Yep.
My purpose is workshops and keynotes and motivating. And my legacy is my investments. So I have a company called Tomorrow's Vision. It's a purpose-driven brand or investment that has been focusing on companies that are in a seed stage that I almost went bankrupt in the last 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Because I've been so focused on this help and all this, like, again, extreme, right?
Yeah.
Not balancing, not letting it lows. And I'm going to talk about it right now. This last 2 years, I've never experienced such a hard years.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, not hard in a sense of how people would probably think of it as hard, meaning we didn't know if we can pay rent. There were days that I was in the workshops and I didn't know how am I going to pay for the ice, for the ice baths.
Oh, wow.
There were days that I didn't know where I'm going to sleep. I slept in the airport. And this is after I sold for millions of dollars. And what happened to me is because I completely left it and I overextended myself, I took all of these things into other investments which I thought were great, and they weren't bad, they're still great, but it didn't give enough cash flow. And so I ran into massive cash flow issues.
Yeah.
All my accounts were frozen. This is literally last 2 years of really, really hard human experience. But the reason why I want to say it is because I never get to talk about this. I always get to talk about the wins, but here I finally am ready, and to really have people understand that while I'm teaching these workshops, why they see me as that love and as this passion and energy, all of this was happening in the same time. I have a wife, 2 kids, and we didn't know what we're gonna eat. Our families were just like, what are you guys doing? This is crazy. Creditors, every creditor, I went from 800 to 300 on credit score because everything was on me, everything was off. But you know what? I have never been this happy. I have never been this in touch with myself. I've never been this strong because I'm finally on my path. And now I want to spend the rest of my life finding and showing people how to be on their path. Because it does hurt for a little bit, because if you were living in a certain pattern for the last 20 years of whatever it may be, there's going to be that little J curve, right? You're going to hit it down, but do not quit. That's what I find the most important. People quit the minute it hurts. Jim Quick told me this. When you focus on things that are when you focus on things that are easy, your life becomes hard. When you focus on things that are hard, your life becomes easy. And if we let it this far, so you have to learn through gutter, through pain, and through mistakes, it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
So that's why taking the time for yourself, reevaluating yourself, go back to your heart and listen. Because you can change your life today. You don't have to wait for tomorrow. And if there is one thing I want to share, it is this paradigm: to be, to do, and to have. You don't have to have the right resources, the right partners, the right times to do the right things, to never become it. You flip it. You anchor it, like you're now traveling, doing this shift. This is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny that you brought that up, because that's something that I'm right now in the moment, like, going through, where I invested a lot of my money in, like, doing the podcast. I wanted it to be amazing, and I traveled all over the place, and I met some of the most incredible people, but it wasn't being monetized. So it was like it was coming out of my pocket, and I was hoping that, like, planting those seeds would, like, build something bigger and greater and this and that. And so when I started sitting with myself, I realized that a lot of that was my ego. A lot of it was like I wanted to be seen for what I was doing, but I really wasn't on purpose. And so I was like, I need to shift bad, So, like, I started doing the men's work and started shifting that. And then I got a job offer to go back to, like, corporate America. And it was a great offer, amazing money. And I turned it down. I was like, I can't do it. So, like, one of my teachers that I work with was like, I want you to take the elevator in your mind, imagine what it's going to feel like to have all that money again, and, the company car and all the things and the benefits and the safety. He's all, now take that elevator down into your belly. How do you feel being there? How does that feel for you? And totally out of alignment. I felt nauseous. And so that's I think for me is like finding the way to like balance where it's like I want to stay on purpose, but at the same time I have to be practical and know that like I have a family to support, I have things to do, but I feel like money is always a byproduct, in my opinion, of doing what's right. And sure, I can go back to work and get a job and make, you know, good money and stuff, but that's not, I'll be miserable because it'll be taking away from like what I feel is most important, and that's leaving the world better than I found it. And it's not going to happen like working in a cubicle. You know, it's just not. So that's been the journey the last couple months, and letting go of that identity of like I need to have a certain house, a certain car, certain credit score, you know. It's like, and so now it's like becoming creative, you know. And so I have one of my brothers supporting me, and you know, through this like process of like generating revenue creative ways that's like on passion and purpose. And so I started this One Funnel Away challenge. Have you ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. It's the One Funnel Away challenge, and so it's basically like learning how to like create funnels to generate revenue based on what your passion and purpose is. And so the challenge started today, and then you hit me up, and I was like, dude, this is perfect. Everything about it was perfect. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. I think we're largely attached to our identities. We're largely attached to our the amount of money we have or the things that we can show. And like, I've been shedding like all of that like lately. Like, no, I don't care. You know, like I'll shop at the thrift store. I mean, this shirt isn't from the thrift store. It's actually from my buddy Wes. But like, I don't mind going to you know, a thrift store and buying my clothes before. I never would have done that. Like, it had to be Nordstrom or somewhere, you know, some department store where I was like, why? It's just clothing. Like, who cares? You know, like, why are we so attached to that? So I'm glad that you brought that up. And what's that?
No, sorry. What's the one thing that I think is showing, right, is trust. Oh, yeah. And that's really what I want to like emphasize to people, is that if there's one thing that I personally have, is the massive trust in divinity that you will always be taken care of. Because at any point of time, any day, I live it and breathe it. This is the one thing that I will brag about myself. Yeah. Because there is not a day I literally, and my wife thinks I'm crazy for this, because I would be at the airport and not having food to eat, and all of a sudden somebody, you know, gets you food. Or how many times I had somebody that ended up you know, donating enough money just to make it to the next place. I mean, if I tell you, I have like hundreds of stories in just last 2 years of pure support and trust.
I've shared this story with other people. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the podcast, so this will be the first time I'm glad. Again, you're bringing stuff up where I'm like, wow, this is like totally meant to be. My wife is very much a planner. She likes to have things in place. She likes security. She likes to know that things are aligned and planned out. And for me, I'm just not that way. I'm not wired that way. Since I was a child, I've always had a knowing that things were going to be okay. No matter what was happening in my world, no matter what was happening in my life, I knew I was going to be okay. It wasn't like a thought. It was a knowing. It's like I feel it all over my body. And even in the hardships that we've been in lately, I know it's going to be okay. I'm not even worried about it. I don't really, like, it doesn't really create an anxiety in me. Like, it gives me a call to action that I need to step into my purpose more. I need to step into my power. But I have a knowing that it's all going to work out. And it's hard to explain that to another human. It's hard you sharing with me, it's like I feel it because I live it too, you know, where it's like there's been times where I don't have any food at all, and I'm like, man, and I've had, like, I'll be at work or whatever, and they say, hey man, my mom's coming to town today, so I brought a lunch. You want to have my lunch? You know, like things like that, like always happening. I'm like, wow, dude, why does this keep happening? This is crazy. And I think it's because I never let go of that trust and that faith that things will work out. And I've never, I don't know what you call that. I don't know if it's, are you religious? Do you believe in God, or is it like a spirit for you? Is it universe for you? Is it like, what is it?
It's everything. It's, look at it as internet, right? Matrix. You have internet, and internet has, so your computer is a hardware. Yep. You have a software, and in order for your, hardware to be updated, you got to connect to the internet, right? Yeah. So, or avatar, I see it as everything and anything, right? A dichotomy. and we are all just different kinds of that internet, but yet we are all of that internet. So it's like a support system that we unfortunately have been too disconnected from the internet, right? So that's one of the reasons why all these tools work, because if you don't match the frequency with the internet, you are matching it with your mind, with your brain, with your desires, and you get lost and disconnected, and you forget. And that's kind of where the civilization in today's world is we're so out of touch, and we don't even realize this. And so I see that as the number one thing. We gotta go back with that touch. And just like internet, whenever you're updating or upgrading, that's kind of what we were doing today, right? One of the things was to upgrade to the highest frequency you can vision and be held about yourself. And you have all these milestones that never end. You just keep on climbing and climbing, right? You climb, you anchor in that space, you climb up again, perhaps there's a new challenge. But then all that is doing is you're just becoming more in one, more in union of what you already are. And so in shamanism, right, it's everything is energy, everything has its own communication, everything you can communicate to. It's just how aware are you, right? That little aliveness inside of us that everybody can feel, right? If you just simply, pay attention, put your right hand up front and just literally pay attention to your right hand and feel that little sensation, that little heat, and say, hello, hand, I love you, hand. Communicate, right? Now, when you feel it, just simply state, I felt that, or I heard that, because then you're letting this divine know that you are communicating, you are feeling or hearing or seeing. And so the key is, just like you have acknowledged, right, that you will be always taken care of and there's always things happening in trust. Well, you are doing it, right? Yeah. So acknowledge the divine, that is that feedback, that it's happening. Yeah. And so that's really what I see. It is everything and anything.
That's awesome, man. Where do you see you're like, I don't want to even call it a business, where do you see your mission going? Like, what if you had to envision where you see the work we did tonight, where you see that going? What is your biggest vision for that?
So I'll go big. I see it as the Microsoft of spirituality. Right. But not in a spiritual sense of what the meaning is in today's world. It's about really finding us back, the power that we have. And what I'm developing and building now, it's what I call the Yelp of enlightenment. Yeah. So I want to have a verified products that are here for people, that all these other retailers, wholesalers that are already out there that really have had the same awakening and same support. It functions as a platform that you'll have a 3-step verification process where, step 1 would be this company is mindful of their employees, of their vendors, their members, their outsourcing, and it is what I call the triple benefit. Right? So when I used to be in my negotiation phase, I used to love negotiate. But to negotiate means to win over someone, and now they're losing and I'm winning, right? Yeah. That's the old paradigm, the duality. What I like to do now is I ask when I wake up, what is required from me today? And I feel and I listen. The second thing is I ask to be used as an instrument of love and light in a perfect amount needed for the highest good of all. It's my mantra everywhere I go. I just did it before we started here, because that's the love and light we are. And if I can show other people that that's what they are as well, man, how can I have a better mission? And then the last step to this is, so when you have a triple benefit, it benefits you, it benefits me, but it also benefits the whole. And it's very important in today's world that we are going back to earth, because I don't think we realize how much we're fucking things up with the way we act to earth, the way we are here, because we are like ants, right, on top of earth, that it can shake us off any point of time. And if we don't realize that connection, that mother, that feminine in every single one of us that borns and births everything, we're gonna be in a pretty bad state.
Yeah. How do you shift some of that, you think?
So number 1, be the light. It is very important that people do not judge how bad it is. There are wars, period. Right? We can either judge that how bad it is, how much pain it is, but that just gives it more power. Everything is frequency. We are frequency, and whatever we change our frequency to is up to us. So we can either decide to feed into the news, feed into the negativity, feed into that, or we can flip it, take the responsibility, the me, and then Don't try to change anyone or anything. You be the change. You anchor that frequency. And that comes with the stillness and silence. So whatever you are, why don't we go into it real quick? Close your eyes for a second. And just simply inhale into your nose. And slow, deep exhale out of your mouth. When you inhale, just invite new. When you exhale, I want you to pay attention as how slow, subtle, deep, controlled it is. Keep on breathing whatever you are, but slow it everything down. The best way to imagine this is an ocean. What if you were washed by the ocean right now? That slow, subtle. That's the frequency, the resonance of the universe, of Earth, is from this place of center. That's where everything begins. Because you would never hurt anyone in that place. Breathe slow and deep. And just awaken the power inside of you. Just scan your feet. Pay attention to that little lightness, expansion, tingling, whatever it is for you. And as you're breathing with each exhale, extend the feeling a little bit up higher into your legs. Breathe slow and deep. And each exhale, allow yourself to be more relaxed, more open, more receptive, as if ocean wave was hitting you. Move it into your belly. And same feeling, feel it in your feet, your legs, your belly, but also bring it into your chest. Slow, deep breath. Move it all the way into your feet, legs, belly, chest, but also your arms, your hands, your entire head. And now feel that little aliveness in every cell of your body. Breathe slow, subtle and deep. Feel that little pulsation, that little subtle feel. And just simply say for yourself, I feel that, if you do. And ask your body, increase the level of awareness now. And pay attention to it, to every part of your body. And I always like to say, put massive smile on your face. Because we are way too serious in this world. Open your eyes. And these little bursts of awareness, energy, bring us back to match that frequency.
Yeah, totally.
So spending more time in that throughout the day has been the key essential. Because nothing can then move.
I love it. And that was part of the work tonight that really I think spoke to me the most, was like the fact when you were like, you gave us that freedom to say, like, you know, let it laugh out, like let the smile, like let laugh. We're so serious, we're so like tight. And I was like, wow, that was such a freeing moment for me, because I felt like a rush of emotion and then like a lot of laughter after. And I was like, man, that was great. Because I think a lot of us do get stuck in that like tension, you know. It's like all the frequencies that are around you and stuff like that. One of the things I've witnessed it one time in my life, after I got off all of my medications and opiates and everything else I was taking, I experienced this like where I felt like I was in I was untouchable. Like I was not vibrating to a frequency that was going to allow anything into my like world. I felt like I can go anywhere, do anything, talk to anybody, and I was untouchable. Like nothing bad was going to come my way. And I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, you know, it's funny because I've spent the last like 9 years trying to replicate that feeling again. And because it was amazing. It was like I would go hike into the mountains, like no knife, no gun, no nothing. Like mountain lions are going to eat me. Why would they? You know, like I'm not putting that out into the world, you know? And some people would say that's naive, but for me, it felt very real. and then you get like just the minutia of life, kids and marriage and this and that, all these things and bills and whatever, and you kind of lose sight of some of that. So going back to the breath, I think is super important, and it's something that I need to do a lot more of. The other thing that I noticed even tonight was the eye-to-eye contact is another thing that like most people don't do. They're either A, uncomfortable with it, or B, like just uncomfortable with it. Like even my own wife, like there's times where I want to connect with her eye to eye, and there's some times where we're not meeting in that place. But it feels very real for me now that I've done some of the men's work, that I've done a lot of eye to eye work. It's super powerful, to see through to another person's soul. What's the like prescription that you would give to somebody that's just stuck in a rut? They want to get out of a rut and they want to like find kind of some of the peace that you found. What's like the steps that they would take for that?
Well, I think first of all, what is stuck, right? I think it's very important to first like take a little look outside of themselves.
Yep.
and look at that little drama that they're playing, right? Because to be stuck, it's a state, right?
Yeah.
But also to unstuck, it can take 5 seconds to do that when you move out of that mind that is the thinking mind.
Yeah.
So what I really find is, definitely use any of these practices.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I can't wait when the world gets to this place where breath is what you're born with and what you die with, right? But are you gonna be aware of it? And this is my tagline. I say it every time, everywhere I go,
Right.
because I find it that if there is one thing and the only thing that you have to learn in life, just pay attention to your own breath. I remember myself being on top of mountains with Wim Hof climbing in Poland, and
Yeah.
we got stuck in this crazy winter storm, and people started blacking out, and like it was really, really crazy. And they said until today it was like the craziest time that ever happened there.
Wow.
And during that time, what happened to me was a switch. All of a sudden, I was no longer in charge of my breath. There was this thing that was breathing me. And essentially what we just did, breathing you, is that little, I don't know if you could touch into that little sense, but that is your biggest teacher. That's that infinite. And every time people feel stuck is they just got to spend more time in this place. And a lot of people are like, they don't make time to meditate and make time to slow down. And they think, oh my God, it's so hard to like stop that. But really what's hard is everything but that.
Yeah.
So it's really important to realize that that's our natural state and our right to be in that peaceful state. It's just us keep on letting our mind taking over of that. So really anything that you're stuck or anything that's in pain, it's just really literally what are you thinking about that? Because the thought creates words create action, and emotions make it feel real. That's literally the sequence.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So again, back to your breath, number one. Rewrite these codes, recode it, or come to my workshops. We'll work on all this very quickly.
Totally, man. What would you say is what's the legacy that you want to leave for the world? How do you want to be remembered?
So I don't really care to be remembered as much as I care for people to remember. And so I think it is very important to wake up and no more bullshit, like I used to even be this way. I try to like people please and like tell them the way a little bit, sideways and this. Fuck no, you have one life, one temple, one body. So shut the fuck up in your brain, slow it down, bring it back to your breath, do the things you want to dream of and do here today. And life is here for you to support that. So I really care for raising and frequency, raising our vibration, raising how much we're thinking about ourselves, because I'm sick and tired of people damning themselves, damning another. All that bullshit needs to go now.
Yeah, totally, man.
So
what do you think your biggest growth edge is? Like, what are you trying to grow into right now? What's your edge that like you need like more work on, that you want to work on?
Balance in between family, myself, and my work that I do. That's absolutely the hardest. Totally
we talked about that. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So NOA, AON, NOA, AON official. That's for the social media. And then noaaon.com is my website. And I have varieties of recordings. I have also varieties of podcasts for people to just get warmed up, get into it. But really, come and feel. This is the most important part. I do immersive experiences. Like today, I do 1 day to 2 days, like a deep reset workshops. And then I do 5-day complete resets. Anything from Siberia in Russia, in a healing village coming up in January, to Mexico, Colombia, all over the world. And write me, message me, connect with me.
Are you doing any like ayahuasca ceremonies or any kind of like, is it all breath work?
I have done it. I've actually connected it with a tribal leader from Amazonia. They came to my house back in Colorado. Right. And I think it works tons for a lot of people, but I don't believe that's necessarily the way. It's really who you are, whatever works. But a lot of people then get addicted to the feeling and not really to the purpose. And it became also this trend, you know, oh, you haven't done ayahuasca, man, let's go drink some ayahuasca, bro. You know what I mean? So it's becoming a little too like... that sacred, mainstream, and the sacredness of it is leaving. So I've done it. Pretty much every drug you can imagine. Right. And it's funny. So the first time I've ever done San Pedro specifically, I was in Peru, and I go in there and I drink like the whole bottle and nothing is happening, right? Yeah. And then bam, here's the message. Stop tripping, bro. Stop trying to trip. Stop trying to feel. Yeah. You know all this. Go deep inside and ask for it yourself. So that's why I love the breath, because it gets you into the same place, same state, and sometimes even further and deeper, because it's real. It's always there, and you don't have to go anywhere, travel, anything. That's again that mind trying to package something, do something, and idealize something. Right. So it works for some. If you feel called, do it, but don't do it from a place of have to do it. Do it from a place of wonder.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I haven't done it. I mean, for the last 8 years, I've been like, it's been on my mind of like, I want to maybe go down that road, but I haven't done it, and I don't know why. And there's really no rhyme or reason as to why. I think there's some fear there with it, and I think there's also like an intuitive knowing that like I have the answers internally. Like I don't really need to source it like from somewhere else. So who knows if I ever will do it? I mean, I feel like it's kind of like maybe, but I don't have a hard yes yet. So until I get that hard yes, it's not happening.
It's all listening to your guidance. And
for sure, man. All right, we're about, I can edit this part out, but we're about 57 minutes. So good. All right. So no, really, I appreciate you like reaching out and us doing this this like workshop was absolutely amazing. Doing this podcast is absolutely amazing. I think what you're doing in the world is absolutely incredible, and like it needs like more people need to get like on board with like some of this stuff, because it's the healing, and that's like the healing that I think the world needs right now. And having more people, like now that the people that came to your workshop, like I came, I'm going to share this on my podcast. People are going to see the video. People are going to see the things that I share. It's like that's getting put out into the world, and other people that are here, they're going to put it out in the world. And so like I think what you're doing is incredible. And And I honor you, man, and thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
If there's anything that I could ever do to like help you in any way, I'm always just a message away. I want to give a special thank you to the Mystic Manor for allowing us to record here and do the class here. I mean, this place is incredible. So for any of you guys in LA that are around the Venice Beach area, check out the Mystic Manor. They have a bunch of classes and in-house healers here. They also have a TV show. Optimistic.tv, I think it is. And so they record every Saturday, and so check them out on Instagram, probably on YouTube as well. But thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, and I look forward to connecting with you again for sure.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Later.
Thank you for listening to Getting Real with Josh Boyer. If you're loving the podcast, please leave a rating and subscribe. You can follow us on all social media platforms and YouTube at gettingreal_. You can also check us out at joshboyer.com.